For the last several decades, we've spent a lot of time digging into one of the biggest causes of early death in our society, which was smoking. But luckily we did the research, we presented it to the world, and now less and less people are smoking than ever before, which is great for our healths and our communities and our children's health as well. But now that we have the time, we've been spending more time focused on a new villain. And this villain is something that most people do every single day. Actually, everybody does this every single day. But now that we're starting to do more research and dig into the science behind what this is doing to our bodies, we're starting to find that it's actually ruining our physical health and our brain, even mental health as well. This new villain is sitting. Now, this is something that you do every single day, but the more we're starting to look at the research, the more we're finding that the more that you sit, the more you increase your chances of dying at an earlier age. Let's put this into perspective. Let's look at some of the research. In one study, it showed that those who sat for 13 hours per day had a twofold or 200% greater risk of death compared to those who sat for less than 11 hours per day. And then in another study, those who sat for more than 90 minutes at a stretch had a nearly twofold greater risk of death than those who sat for less than 90 minutes at a stretch. So to put this into perspective, the more you sit, the more you increase your chances of dying at an earlier age from any cause. And not only does sitting have a negative impact on our physical health, we're starting to find that increased sitting time actually has a negative impact on our mental health and can even affect your mood as well. Some studies have shown that increased sitting time was also correlated to increased rates of anxiety and depression. Not only that, but increased sitting time has also been shown to lower creativity, lower work engagement, and even decrease your happiness. So now that the research is starting to show more and more just how bad sitting is for us, the question obviously becomes for many people, how do I avoid sitting too long in places like work where I typically have to work at a desk? Well, luckily in today's age, we have access to some amazing tools like standing desks like this one here. But even with the availability of technology like standing desks, desk risers, sit-stand desks, things like that, many people are still wary of making that full transition into a standing desk. So in this video, I'm going to give you my top 5 reasons why you should invest in yourself as well as your mental performance by using some sort of standing desk. Now, the first benefit of standing at your workstation versus sitting is, let's be honest, and this may seem a little bit silly, but standing burns more calories than sitting. If you do the math and you look at how many calories you burn per hour standing versus sitting, you actually can burn about 50 calories an hour just standing at your workstation. Now let's stretch this out a little bit. Let's say on average you stand for about 3 hours a day over the course of a 5-day work week. That adds up to about 750 calories that are burnt during the course of that week. Add that up over the course of the year, that's 30,000 calories that are burnt just by standing at your workstation. And those 30,000 calories actually add up to about 8 pounds of fat that you burn off over the course of a year. Not bad for just standing at your workstation. All right, so counting calories and tracking weight loss may not be your game, and it's not mine either. It's not one of the main reasons why I choose a standing workstation versus a sitting workstation. But what if I told you that standing at your workstation can actually help you think and focus better? Now, I want to show you an interesting study they did, and what they did is they took 2 groups of participants. One was standing, one was sitting, obviously, and they put them through what's called a Stroop test. Now, the Stroop test is a gold standard for measuring brain processing power and speed. And it's a really interesting test. What they do is they basically give the participants a sheet of paper, and on there will be a color, so it'll be written out in red. And what they'll do is they'll actually flip the color. So instead of saying red in red ink, it'll say red in blue ink, blue and red ink, and they'll flip it around and ask the participants to name the color. And that can be a bit tricky because your brain sees the color, but it's actually a different color that's being portrayed on the paper. And this is actually a really gold standard for measuring the speed and efficiency of your brain power. Now, what they found was actually really interesting. What they found is that those who were sitting were able to do it in about average 120 milliseconds, and those who were standing or about 100 milliseconds. Now, I know that may not seem that crazy, 20 milliseconds, but actually if you add that up over the course of the day with how much processing your brain does on a daily basis, we're talking about hundreds of processes that are done almost every second, that adds up to a lot over the course of a day and can actually help you think and focus better. But not only that, there is research that shows that standing is actually a mild form of stress. And when your brain is under a mild form of stress, it allows the brain to focus better. And again, one of the main reasons why I choose a standing desk is because it helps me think, process, and focus better on many different levels. Now, yes, a lot of people use standing desks to help with their physical health. But honestly, there are a lot of people out there who use standing desks to help them become more productive at work. And my question always was, is there actually merit to that? Or is it more of a mindset, mental shift? Is it a placebo effect, whatever it may be? And it turns out there actually is merit to it. In one study, it showed that those who used a standing desk were actually 45% on average more productive than their seated counterparts. Not only that, but it showed that their productivity actually increased over time. They started in the first month on average with a 23% increase in productivity, and over the course of the next 5 months actually increased their productivity to up to 53%. And the great part about this is it didn't matter what career or job category it was in, this was the same across all categories and ranges. The idea of standing at your desk all day may make your feet and back cringe, and many people assume if they're standing at their workstation, they're going to be experiencing more pain because of it. And this actually isn't always true. Studies show that actually standing at your workstation can reduce your pain by as much as 54%, and some participants saw that within just 2 weeks. Now, it may seem a little mind-blowing and a little odd, so I want to dig into this just a little bit because this comes down to how standing helps our body manage inflammation. Anytime you have pain, typically that means there's going to be inflammation associated with that area. Inflammation is the natural swelling and buildup of fluid around that area that the body uses to heal, but sometimes that can often cause pain as well. Now, this is where the lymphatic system of your body becomes extremely important. Your lymphatic system is this network of vessels that go throughout your entire body and help to flush out fluid and toxins from your tissues. And it's surrounding your entire body. But here's the interesting thing about your lymphatic system, is it doesn't actually have its own muscular system that can push fluid along. It actually has to get flushed out and moved along via movement from your muscles. So anytime you move around, your muscles contract and it helps push fluid along the lymphatic system, which is why exercise and moving and getting movement on a regular basis is so valuable for your physical and mental health as well. Now, when you're sitting at your desk for 8 hours a day, what you find is that those muscles no longer move and you don't get the movement of fluid along your lymphatic system, which allows fluid to build up in your tissues and can increase your symptoms of pain. Now, when you have the ability to stand at your workstation, you can actually continue moving around and allows the fluid to continue moving throughout your lymphatic system and prevents the buildup of inflammation in those tissues that could be causing you pain. I mean, there's so much more room for activity. I could jazzercise, a little yoga, CrossFit, or you just standing works. And lastly, one of the major benefits of using a standing desk is it actually helps you maintain and even increase your energy throughout the day. The main reason for this is your brain uses tremendous amounts of energy doing what it needs to do every single day. And when you go to work, let's say you have a lot of things to get done, it's a really stressful day, you have some big meetings coming up, your brain's going to use a ton of energy. To put this into perspective, I want you to think about your car. Your car uses fuel for its energy. And the more your car works, the more smog comes out of the exhaust, right? Now your brain does something very similar. The more it's using it, the more there's going to be this smog runoff or buildup that accumulates in the brain. And when we're sitting there, our blood flow to the brain starts to get reduced. But when we're standing, it actually increases the amount of blood flow that gets to the brain, which not only helps to flush that smog out, it also helps provide the brain with more fresh energy, more fresh fuel, which is really great for your energy and your brain performance. And that's going to really help you cruise throughout the entire day rather than getting to 1, 2 o'clock and feel like you just hit a wall, hit a coma, and you're done for the rest of the afternoon. Now, standing all day may not be a viable option for many of us out there, but we can also agree sitting all day definitely is not. So the best option there is to find a healthy combination of both sitting and standing. Now, if we go back to one of those studies that I mentioned earlier in the video, it showed that the longer the bout is of sitting, the worse it is for you. So my best recommendation for you is to try to get at least 5 to 10 minutes of standing for every 30 to 45 minutes of sitting. Any longer than that, and it shows it starts to increase the negative effects of sitting. Now, as you go through, it's going to feel a bit awkward at first if you're not used to it, but the goal should be as you start to progress, you want to start stretching the time out longer and longer and increase your standing time as much as you possibly can to reduce the negative effects of sitting. Now, personally, I like these sit-stand desk risers. You basically just put them right on top of your current desk so you don't have to get a whole brand new desk or anything like that. Also, they're a little bit more affordable, so I like that because now I have one in my office and I got one in my home office here where we're recording these videos. And for years, I used the Desk, which is a very popular sit-stand desk. It's probably one of the most popular that are out there. But just recently, I got a chance to try this one, which is the Flexispot. And this one, I'm going to give you a couple reasons why I like this one versus the Desk. First one is very easy to set up, and it's also very sturdy. I like that about this one. It feels very comfortable and very strong on the desk. It feels very easy to be able to put my hands here, rest them there, and I don't feel like it's gonna topple over. The second thing I like about it is that I'll try to include a video of it on here, but the Varidesk actually comes up and out towards you. So you actually have to scoot back a little bit from your current desk to be able to use it properly. The other thing I like about the Flexispot is it goes basically up and down only, which is really cool, and also helps it feel a little bit more sturdier, doesn't make it look like or feel like it's going to topple over. And then lastly, and this is an interesting one, actually pretty obvious, I like that it's electric. This one's electric riser, it comes up and down, but the other thing about it, it also means there's no notches. So when you use a Varidesk that just has the little clamps on the side that you lift up and down, there's little gaps on how many levels you can go up, and there's only so many sections. With the electric one, you can get it in literally the exact perfect position that you want within, a centimeter or two, which is really, really nice and allows you to get the most comfortable fit for your desk riser. This particular one was $360, but that's also because it has the electric capabilities on it for the rising, which I love, and I think that's well worth it for a sit-stand desk riser like this. Some of the actual full models where the full desk actually rises are much more expensive, so in terms of that, I think this is well worth it. But they do have other options that are $200 on up in various shapes and sizes as well, depending on what you're looking for, how big your desk is, and how big your workstation is. Hopefully, this video gives you all the validation you need to finally invest in yourself and go ahead and get a sit-stand desk. Trust me, your brain is gonna love you for it, and you're gonna notice significant improvements in all aspects of your work performance and your productivity and your energy. So go ahead and go try it out. And if you're looking for more videos like this to help you hack your brain and your mind and take your brain performance and mental performance to a whole new level, make sure you subscribe by clicking that button right there. Trust me, so worth it.